dancers, welcome to another video. Today we are just having a little discussion. I'm going to be talking about my top tips for choreography, memorization, and this also applies for improvisation. If choreography isn't your thing, these tips will still apply for learning your music so that you can improvise better. And this is also great whether you're working on a solo or on a group piece. So let's get into the first tip. My first piece of advice is that you need to listen to your music over and over and over until you almost hate it. This is going to sound counterintuitive because yes, you should love your music and you should really be excited to listen to it and perform it, but you need to learn it to the point where you hear all of the little nuances, all of the little instruments, you hear the melody, you hear the rhythm, you hear everything in between, and sometimes by the time you've listened to it that much, it's not quite as exciting anymore. But that is actually what you want. That means you truly know the music. Second tip is to slow it down and use a looping program. So I have an app on my phone. I will link it below. I think it's just called Music Speed Changer. This allows you to slow down the tempo without affecting the pitch, so it doesn't sound all like woo, woo, weird or high pitched. And you can also set points in the music to just repeat over and over again. This was especially helpful for me when I was recovering from my concussion because I couldn't really practice full out, but I could stand up and I could mark small sections. So I would just do one section, I'd just mark it, and we'll talk about marking in a second. And just that short length was a good kind of way to work with my abilities at that time. But even if you're not recovering from an injury, it's still a very, very helpful way to truly just beat it into your brain, especially important for group choreography. You need to be able to perform the music on your own memory without following visual cues. So marking choreography, some people don't know what this is. Marking something just means that you're sort of going through the motions without performing it full out. So you need to do both. You need to practice full out so that you can practice the physical aspect of the dance. However, studies show that marking your choreography, so you're just doing the footwork and you're maybe not even doing the turns, you're sort of visualizing it as you're halfway moving through the choreography. This actually helps your brain memorize the steps and the actual movements and making that connection from the movement to the music that you're hearing. Take notes. This is difficult for some people because note-taking for choreography is its own skill, and this is something I teach, so if you're interested, if you don't know where to start, let me know. But even if you don't know like an official way to do it, you just need to write your own notes. It could be total gibberish to somebody else, but the important thing is that you understand what you wrote down. Again, with the studies do show that you process memory differently when you speak or write than you do just by experiencing whatever it is. So you will memorize it better if you write it down. But I really do highly recommend writing down the movements. And if you're not going to do that, at least mark out the basic map of the choreography. So, your intro, here's the chorus, here's this, I'm going to do this here. You can make it your skeletal or framework choreography, and then allow yourself to have freedom to sort of fill in the blanks in between. This one is a little bit for development of choreography, not just memorization, but it helps on both aspects. One element that I like to do first in a choreography before I work on any steps or any movements is just to map where I'm going to go on the stage. Helps if you know generally the size of the stage you're going to be on, but even if you don't, this can really help. So I just think about where I'm going to go in the music, what parts of the music sound like traveling, what parts sounds introverted and stationary, and then you start to get a sense of, okay, I want to go here, and then I want to go there, and then I want to come center stage, go up stage, and remember to use all of your space. Record yourself practicing. I know this is like nails on a chalkboard for some people. A lot of dancers have a tendency to be very perfectionistic and very overly self-critical. So record yourself, but also be kind to yourself. Watch your video and then give yourself critique as if you were giving critique to one of your good friends. What would you say to them? You would never watch your friend's performance and say, that was trash, you should quit, right? Like, so don't do that to yourself. That's not going to help. However, when you record yourself, especially if you record yourself from an angle slightly behind you, you will see flaws, you will see hesitation, you will see little weird flips and pawing in the hand, you'll see posture mistakes. And you know what? It is better to see those in a practice video that only you see than to see it in the video from the performance and then feel like you could have done better. This one can be especially helpful for group choreography, is if you can record either a practice session where your teacher or your director is speaking out verbal cues, or if it's your own choreography, read through your notes that you've written down because you already did that. Read through your notes as you listen to the music. Record yourself doing that so that when you can practice, you can listen to those verbal cues. This is extremely helpful, especially for your own choreography, actually. I think originally I said it was more helpful for group, but it's actually for both. It's really, really helpful. I find this really helps me in a section that maybe didn't just flow, like the choreography didn't just like come to me. It's a section that I had to really sit there and think about what would look right and what would fit the music. If you record yourself, speaking those cues, hip bump on the right, 5, 6, 7, 8, blah, 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 blah. Then as you're dancing, you have those verbal cues, and then eventually they're like training wheels, so don't do it forever. Then you do it without the verbal cues, and you just go off of your memory. Visualization really helps. When you listen to your music, you want to listen to it before you even start your choreography and really, really learn it, but you also want to listen to your music after you've done your choreography or learned your choreography. I especially do this in the car. Don't daydream too much when you're driving, but you'll eventually start to see the choreography in your mind even without consciously thinking, what comes next, what comes next. So just listen to the music and visualize. And this is as effective as practicing, so it can be another good alternative when you don't feel well or you don't actually have time to dedicate to practicing. This is probably the most important one, to be honest, is practice every single element of your choreography. Yes, we will have points where we just mark. Yes, we'll have moments where we just visualize. But there needs to be set, dedicated time to practice the choreography from the ground up. You're practicing your pointing your feet, you're working on balance, you're working on your expression, and also wearing your costume to practice really helps. It's a pain and I hate it. I hate getting dressed up for nothing, and it takes forever. But once you're actually in your costume, if you have not practiced with your shoes and your costume, and if at all possible, when it's actually possible to dance in a real venue, practice on the stage, if at all possible, at least one time, because the texture of the floor can make a huge difference. The shoes, I know I've had shows where I had to bring, I brought the pair of shoes I was going to wear, and it was a disaster. It didn't work. It was so slippery. So I was actually close to home, so I went home and I got 5 pairs of shoes, and I brought them all, and only one kind of sort of worked, but I just grabbed a whole bunch that maybe would have worked. So shoes, if you're wearing shoes, sometimes barefoot doesn't work. Tights, practice with all of the elements, practice with your skirt, most importantly, because the skirt will move and it will affect how you dance. And I actually like to choreograph in the skirt or a similar skirt to what I want to wear. Jewelry can also be extremely distracting. I've had a necklace on that I wore, and as soon as I put it on, 1 minute into the choreography, I noticed that I can't remember exactly what happened. I think that I did a back bend and it was too long, and so it flopped over my face and got stuck. And that was immediately like, nope, that's not gonna work. Shorter necklace. So these are all things that you want to have the ability to work on in advance and not find out when you're on stage performing. And my last tip for today is practice makes perfect, of course, but perfect practice makes perfect. And another saying that I like to really live by is practice not until you get it right, practice until you can't get it wrong. And this applies, like I said, to improvisation as well, because with improvisation, you should have those moments where it's just very flowing, there aren't any freezing points, there aren't any overdone points. So whether it's for particular choreography, complete improvisation or for framework choreography, all of these tips can apply, and I really hope that they help. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything to add. Was there something that you maybe haven't tried before? If you tried and it really helps, I would love to hear your comments, and I thank you so much for joining me for yet another video. Be sure to hit subscribe if you aren't already. I would love to have you here, and I hope you'll catch my next video. So until then, thank you. Bye-bye.